Come on. All right, we are live. Welcome to the exciting adventure of tabletop gaming and Catholicism.
Exciting adventure today. All right, theme song.
Oh yeah, that's me, isn't it? Oh yeah, we're not
That is
professional here at all.
We're totes profesh.
That's what I was trying to pull up too. Here we go. I hope this is it. Oh, that's not it.
That's the video. That's the one where
Here we go.
we're in.
That's it. I love that we have our own little late night, late night levity.
I mean, I love it.
Yeah, shout out to John Murphy. He made that. John Murphy, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know who he is anymore. He's like he doesn't join this call anymore. I don't know if he ever did, really.
No, he never did. Me and Roger met him prior, and then Roger hit him up and said, "Hey, can you make a thing for us?" And he made that all by himself. So shout out John Murphy. Sometimes he joins and he watches. So. Okay.
Cool. All right. I'm stalling for a moment because I'm trying to think of what good sketch to put on today. But you know what? I know I'm gonna go to. It's this one. We'll do that, but we'll do that in a minute. We got to get our monologuing and everything together.
It's all AI generated nowadays. We got that good old Elon Musk AI.
Yeah. Well, no. Oh, I mean
that's Gronk. Isn't that Gronk or what is it? What's his AI?
That's Grok. Grok is the.
Well, I remember you posted something on Twitter and they were having like a rap battle and it was epic.
I did. Well, so let's go into the monologue and then we'll get into our fun and exciting discussions and such. Isn't there a cute card that comes up that says monologue?
Not for the monologue.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Late Night Levity. I'm your host, Catholic Comedy, and tonight we've got an exciting show lined up for you. We're going to journey through mystical lands, battle fearsome foes, and of course, find out how it all comes back to the Catholic faith. That's right, folks. We're talking tabletop RPGs, Tolkien, and Catholicism. Now, I don't know about you, but there's something about rolling a 20-sided die that just gets my heart racing. Anyone here a Dungeons and Dragons fan, or maybe Pathfinder? Yeah, I see you. Fellow adventurers, there's something magical about gathering around a table with friends, diving into epic quests, and creating stories that are just as legendary as Middle-earth itself. Speaking of Middle-earth, we can't talk about tabletop RPGs without mentioning the Grandmaster of Fantasy, J.R.R. Tolkien. This man created a world so rich, so detailed, that even now, decades later, we're still discovering new things about it. Did you know that Tolkien was a devout Catholic? That's right. The man who brought us hobbits, elves, and dragons was also deeply inspired by his faith. Tolkien once said, "The Lord of the Rings is, of course, a fundamentally religious and Catholic work. You see it in the themes of hope, redemption, and the battle between good and evil. It's like the Catechism meets fantasy epic. And let's not forget Tolkien's close friend C.S. Lewis, who gave us the Chronicles of Narnia, another incredible series filled with Christian symbolism. But here's the best part, folks. Tabletop RPGs and Catholicism have more in common than you might think. Both involve community, storytelling, a sense of adventure. In RPGs, you have your party, your fellowship, if you will, embarking on a quest. In our faith, we journey together as a church, navigating the trials and tribulations of life, guided by the light of Christ. And let's not forget the virtue of imagination. In RPGs, we create characters, worlds, and stories that reflect our innermost dreams and values. In our faith, we envision the kingdom of heaven. We meditate on the lives of the saints, and we strive to live out the greatest story ever told, the gospel. So tonight, we're going to delve into these fantastic realms, explore the connections between our faith and our favorite video games, and maybe even roll a few dice. We've got some amazing guests lined up, including a special segment where we discuss the theological insights of Tolkien's work. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. But before we dive into all that, thank you. Before we dive into all that, let's bring out our incredible panelists for tonight. First up, here's the guy who can turn any gathering into a laugh fest. Our very own master of mirth. Give it up for Steve-O.
Steve-O.
Next, there's the modern-day theologian who can break down the toughest topics with a single tweet. The man with a pulse on the papacy. It's Modern Papist, and he'll be here later. And finally, the musical genius who can turn the Summa Theologica into a toe-tapping tune. Our very own Bard of Belief. Welcome, Catholic Song Guy.
Why, thank you.
That's your cue to like riff a little bit.
Oh.
But wait, that's not all. We got a special guest with us tonight. He's the master behind the thrilling tabletop RPG game Master's Tale, and the author whose work has captivated many. Please give a warm welcome to Catholic Game Guy, John.
John.
All right,
nice to be here, guys.
Oh, I'm terrible.
We've got our fellowship assembled, our quest laid out before us, and a night of adventure ahead. So grab your character sheets, unsheath your swords, and let's embark on this epic journey together. Welcome to Late Night Levity, where the adventure is just beginning.
Welcome, everybody.
These AI monologues are getting better and better. Like,
they're going to take
They're learning.
That was it is learning, and that's probably something that we have to worry about, you know.
A little bit. I'm saying, I went to like job search because I'm looking for a part-time job because I need more money, and I was like, it was all just AI content. It was like, can you write AI? Can you do this? Can you do AI? I was like, well, what am I doing? I can just do it.
You can 100% do AI content. That is, I see. Oh, so we'll talk about this, some fun stuff that I know we talk about AI here a lot, but that's just because I'm currently obsessed with it. And since I'm kind of a host, I get to like morph these things. So, Steve, you were getting to it before that we were doing. I decided to try to get the different AIs into a rap battle, and so I had initially it was like, you know what? Let me have Gemini, Google's Gemini, and then the ChatGPT have it like do a rap battle between them, where I could like here's a song, and then take that song and send it to the other one. Say here's what they wrote, write a response, and then send it back. Here's what they wrote, write a response. So I was going to do that, and then I found out that Google owns the rights to whatever you produce using their Gemini AI, or at least is not willing to say that you own the rights to whatever you produce. Well, ChatGPT and Grok and Suno all are basically like, you own the rights to what you generate. I think part of that's because they just don't want to have to deal with the rights issue. Like, it's not our rights, they're your rights. But still, Google's like, well, you know, it's complicated. You'll probably have to ask Google who owns the rights to any content that's made. And that's not somebody I trust to ask. So then I just did it between Grok, which is the Elon Musk's AI on the Twitter space, and ChatGPT, and it was fun. I mean, for me, sitting there going back and forth. I don't know if anybody else who saw it enjoyed it, but I did. And in the end, isn't that what matters?
That's the only reason I'm here.
My entertainment is
always coming in with the hits.
Yeah.
You're obsessed with AI, and we're obsessed with you.
Sweet. That's what I want to hear. People obsessed with me. Okay. So yeah, I mean, let's jump in. I gotta do share a video file here because we have to do a sketch. Sketches, right?
Sketches are the best.
Everyone likes a sketch. And so, keeping with the theme here, I've got it ready and queued up. So,
all right, let's
take it away, Steve.
Is this gonna be the full sketch part? This is your sketch.
This is the sketch.
Gotcha. I say, let's roll
it. So, did you hear that Gondor called for our aid?
Yeah, apparently we're going there to fight against Mordor.
Pretty exciting, I'd say, taking on the forces of evil with our brothers in Gondor.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, what's wrong?
There's some bad stuff going on in the leadership of Gondor. I mean, do we really want to associate with them?
Well, we're in a battle against evil, sir. The end of the world is nigh.
I've been hearing about a lot of podcasts.
Podcasts?
Yeah, you know, where they put their thoughts in a scroll and toss it into a pond for others to find.
I don't think that exists.
Anyway, the podcasts are about Gondor and the steward, Denethor, I think, and he's apparently a bit of a jerk. Doesn't care about his people or his army. He eats cherry tomatoes in the most aggravating way. I'm just not sure we should be aligning ourselves with that kind of guy.
Mordor is literally the embodiment of evil. If they're not stopped at Gondor, Sauron will plunge the world into eternal darkness. There will be no joy, no love, no light. It will be hell on Middle-earth.
A lot of people are saying that the seat of the king is empty and has been for a long time.
You don't say.
With everything going on in Gondor, it seems like just as evil as Mordor. I think it'd be better if we found some kind of Aragornian option, where we wander the wilderness alone and kind of hope things get better somehow.
All right, I'm going to ride for Gondor. We'll unite the clans and defeat evil. For Theralingas!
Wait, I didn't tell you about how irreverent their changing of the god ceremony is. I'm gonna write about this one in my next podcast.
Love it. That was great.
That
I love
one
the
was
accent.
well
done.
my accent was not as good as Paul Rugg. Paul Rugg is he was the voice of the other guy. Yeah, there was the
I knew it sounded familiar. I was like
me with a terrible British accent, and then there's Paul Rugg, who was the voice of Freakazoid and the Mr. Director from Animaniacs and Freakazoid, and a lot of voice acting he's done over the years. But yeah, so
That took a lot of guts just to get on the same microphone with him, buddy. So come on now.
he was at the festival this past year.
I know you. I remember telling us.
I'm sure.
I was
I'm sure
very
I've said
jealous
it a lot of times. Yeah, it's
yeah,
awesome.
Every time you
Awesome.
mention his name, I get so jealous. I'm just like,
I feel like every time I mention his name, I have to send him money or something like that. You know,
understandable.
but
I feel the same
don't.
way.
I don't send him money, and that's really what's important.
Always.
All right. I mean, the AI kind of forced my hand here, where we're supposed to talk about Tolkien, and 'cause I did not go through that AI like monologue before it happened.
The breakdown.
But,
Every time I ask AI to do something for me, they break it down, and then I just completely like I'll start doing exactly what it says because I have my own show too. So I try doing what it says, and I go, "Oh, I didn't think this went through very much," because the AI thought much more than I did, and I sat there and I go, "I don't really want to talk about this, but I really want to talk about this," and then so the flow gets like flowed out into the universe. So, but I know what you mean by the because like Lord of the Rings is like
we're going to talk about, we have a special segment where we discuss the theological insights of Tolkien's work, and I don't have a special segment where we're going to discuss the theological insights of Tolkien's work. But we do have a guy here, Catholic fantasy guy now. He was game guy earlier, now he's Catholic fantasy guy. Okay, I'm going to have to update my AI here to make that all work. But so Catholic fantasy guy, Papist, he sent me he's like, hey, talk to this guy. And then this guy messages me and he's like, hey, we should talk about stuff. And I was like, okay, we can talk about stuff. And I wanted to go over an exciting kind of thought that we had. But first, I want a Catholic fantasy guy to take a moment and introduce himself and talk about what he's built. And then we'll go into the fun thing that we're going to end up doing.
Okay, so I don't know the flow of your show, so I have like strong opinions on like a lot of the things you've been talking about, and I'm like, don't say anything until he calls.
You pipe right up. Okay, let's start then. The flow of the show is I talk, and then other people interrupt me, because if they don't, I just continuously talk.
Okay, so just like very briefly, I'm a fantasy writer.
You can go at length.
I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana, and I made a game called Master's Tale. It's in 6 states now, but it's South Louisiana, East Texas. We've sold about 500 copies. It's kind of like a little local thing. We're trying to expand it out beyond that, but basically, I've been writing fantasy my whole life, and I kind of mix fantasy with sci-fi. My mother is a biology and chemistry major, said my father's a lawyer, and I'm a creative. So those things have kind of merged together to form what I hope to be like a unique voice. I'm definitely not a Tolkien-esque writer, but I try to inform as much of the morals as I can. Like, for instance, my world's not polytheistic, it's monotheistic. You're battling mostly demonic forces, things like that, where it's not like, oh, you can be a tiefling and demons might be, oh, yeah, they might be okay. It's like, no, they're like, these
Demons.
horrible
I like
forces
that.
of destruction and so on.
I'm already sold on it.
Now, this would be the perfect time to insert the shameless plug. Hey, Catholic Fantasy Guy, where can we find some of your stuff?
I can send you a link, or I can I don't know how I do that, but I can link you to.
Why don't you shoot me a link?
Sure.
Right now, email it to me, and then see. As part of the really professional things, we're not going to say how things work to the audience, but you shoot me a link, then I share my second screen that has your stuff on it, so people can see it, and then it's you talking about it while we do it. So we're going to take 2 here, and we're going to edit this in post because we're live. Okay, so we're not going to edit this in post. We're just gonna be live and enjoy that. So yeah, just send me your stuff. Because you have my email, because I just sent you a thing, the thing to get on here. And,
sure.
Or did you? Okay,
well, yeah, no, I'm sending it over right now. I'm sending a couple of little links and so on to stuff. But yeah, no, in general, what I try to do is just like the thing that makes the game interesting, I guess, or really the hook. What started it was. We would play D&D 5e, and I had designed tabletop games and board games and so on for my friends, but I had never played formal D&D. And this is going to get me excommunicated. But I said, D&D, oh man, I'm going to play the greatest game ever. And then I got it, and I was like, it's okay.
How do we kick him out of this?
No, remove.
No, okay. I'm gonna come in here and come clean here. I am also not a huge fan of D&D.
I'm going to come clean as well, and I'm not that big of a...
Okay,
No,
tell me
I have never
like
played
about it.
D&D.
Okay, so so this is where I'm going to get ostracized here. I'm
That's
not
okay.
a huge fan of the fantasy genre as a whole because I don't like pretending like you don't know things for the sake so we understand like how electricity works and things that weren't understood in those times, right? Or we could understand. I don't know what you're trying to throw in front of us there.
Nothing, sorry. Ignore it.
Okay. I don't like, you could say, oh, I know how to make gunpowder because of our knowledge. You can actually I know how to make gunpowder, but then, you're in a fantasy realm where you can't make that, even though you totally know how to. Like in an RPG, like as a movie or something like that, it's a period piece kind of thing. That's fine. But like as role playing, pretending like you don't know things, I have a difficult time with it. So, but I did play a lot of D&D in high school because I didn't have friends. No, I had friends.
Well, you had to have someone around the table. I mean,
right. But I played a lot of different RPGs. So I had a friend of mine who ran the Buffy the Vampire Slayer RPG for like 10 years. It was ridiculous. I got your links for yourself. But yeah, so I mean, tell me more about the. I now have the thing over here that I can show.
So the main thing that I saw as issues, and I don't address that there will no longer be fantasy or technology that doesn't exist. Should exist. But one of the things that we did was, that's actually a picture that was taken at a shop in Carencrow, and he was
Really
like, put some dice on the book and take a picture of it, and I was like, okay, so that's what we did.
Wow.
Yeah, we have almost no online presence. There is a connection to a YouTube channel where I've done some orc lore, but that's pretty much it. No, so what we looked at was that in traditional fantasy games, you have roles that you play, like classes, like I'm a rogue or I'm a barbarian or something along those lines. And one of the things that never really made sense to me was you're traveling with these companions. So like, oh, I'm a barbarian, so I can't use this level 1 wizard thing that take this guy 1 day to learn. That would be really effective for me, but I just can't do it because I'm a racial group, I guess, because that's kind of what barbarians are in reality. So it's just like that just seems a little bit strange.
Racist.
And so well, right. Like it actually is. It's a little bit, it's like, it would be like having like, I don't know, one of the classes in the game be like East Asian. It'd be like, why would you have that? But anyway, so what we did was we created schools and disciplines. So you can show up in a town, find masters, and learn abilities from them, i.e. the tale of becoming a master's tale. And so
I thought this was a Doctor Who thing. The Master's Tale, it was about the Master in Doctor Who. No, yeah, I'm joking. Go on.
So what?
There's like 3 sci-fi nerds that are like geeking out about that reference right now, and the rest.
So what we did with it was we created this game where you had schools and disciplines that you could enter towns and learn things, and then once you had learned enough abilities in that school, you could teach it. So you can actually teach your comrades how to do certain things, and it works kind of more like the real world than otherwise. And it's led to these really fun and interesting builds where you're never really going like, well, I'm going to play a fighter for the 15th time. It's like you're playing something new and interesting every time you play the game. So that's the pitch. That's what makes it different.
And you can get it for $50 or 4 interest-free installments of $12.50 with Shop Pay, apparently.
Okay.
Shop Pay.
Nice.
I don't know if that actually makes a difference there, but so that, yeah, there is. I put. So if you're following me on the Twitters, I commented on this with the link to the place to buy it. But let's talk about the exciting thing, which is what are we going to do? So we know you've got this RPG game thing. What are we going to do?
Are we going to have a fun and exciting experience?
We are probably not at the moment, but
Not currently, but it's in the
Catholic
works.
Fantasy Guy and I talked with Papist and everything, and we think it'd be fun. And just tell me if I misinterpreted this, but we think it'd be fun if we all did a game of Master's Tale using online D20 rolling things that we can do rolling of
roll
dice.
20. Yeah,
That's it. Yeah, with roll 20. It's not going to be on today's show because I don't think Fantasy Guy is prepared for us all. But we'll take the time and we're going to do a.
Don't underestimate me.
He's like, I can pull it out right now. I got it
Absolutely.
ready. Let's go.
I run like 3 of these a week. Let's do it.
Ooh,
So the thought here is that we're gonna do one. We're gonna do it here, and I want to encourage everyone. Now Catholic Fantasy Guy is not a sponsor. We don't have sponsors. We should at some point, but we don't currently because of the 100 people who watch this, which I am very I appreciate every 100% of people who are on here. But sponsors would be like you have 100-person reach. That's not really a lot. So, but anyway, we don't have sponsors. He's not sponsoring us. The reason why he's on here is because I think it's neat. And I when I think things are neat, I try to get people to do them. Yeah. And so I would encourage everyone to go. And if you can buy a copy, buy a copy. And if you can't buy a copy, you could sell someone or something. If you have a younger brother who has a really fancy coat that you don't like him, you could sell him and then use that money to buy a copy of Master's Tale. That's a biblical reference. Don't actually sell your younger siblings with fancy coats, or even without fancy coats.
You forgot the very special offer. Listeners of Late Night Levity, if they order now, they can get Master's Tale for 150% of the purchase price.
That's right, 150%. Just put in the promo code Late Night Levity, and an extra 50% will be added to your cart. But that money doesn't go to me; it goes to my kids. So, Papist, you made it.
Here. He's made it. How's it going, buddy?
Hello.
You look tired, man.
How has your day been?
My I
I
got
was
a
going
bad
to say
haircut.
you look youthful with the shave and a haircut. Actually,
Yeah, my haircut is terrible.
Wish
And
I could
I
shave my
did
hair.
the shaving for my daughter. She's like, "Oh, I want to see you have a baby face," and I'm like, "All right."
See, when my kids say that, I just pick up the youngest one and be like, "There you go. That's me with the
I
baby
show them
face."
my picture, and they go, "You never mind. I don't want to see that ever again."
No. My wife has been trying to get me to do a mustache, and I'm just too blonde for it, and it'll just
Oh yeah, no.
it's not gonna work.
Okay, let's just get it out of the way. Very few people can pull off just mustache without looking like serial killer.
So
It's
here's
just-
the thing. Here's the thing.
He's not lying.
So I'm an amateur boxer, and I do training that way. And there are a lot of guys that are old school that have mustaches. Now they're dark haired and very like Italian looking guys. And my wife's like, "You could pull that off," and I'm like, "Absolutely not."
Okay, I
That's
haven't
pretty
I haven't known you for very long. Looking at your face, I will tell you 100% you cannot pull that off.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, you can pull
Oh,
off.
she can hear you from the room.
You can pull off mustache just like Pappas can pull off baby face. Neither of those things work.
No.
Yep.
You know, you
Love
could
Pappas.
shave the top, and then you'd have like a Saint Francis look.
I mean,
going on.
there's definitely like a monkish haircut there. If you shave, if you shave back
I
here,
know. I don't want it. I don't
It's-
want it.
he took the Catholic or the Catholicism a bit too far and was like, I'm getting a saint haircut.
It's like an Amish beard going on. Everyone says I have an Amish beard.
I did not put a bowl over my head. I know it looks like it.
I had a bowl haircut once. Actually, like 3 times. I don't know why I kept doing it.
I will
not
tell
a
you-
good look.
He was getting his haircut, and he tripped forward into the bowl. He was like, "Oh no!"
I will tell you, it doesn't matter what your haircut looks like. I am jealous of it because of my haircut.
I mean, like, you'd be popular at a bowling alley.
Matt, did you shine your head in the ball? Oh, Shido. Okay. So we're gonna take Catholic Fantasy Guys Master Tale game, and we're going to do it. I mean, yeah, it'll be great. It'll be a lot of fun. I think we'll probably record it separately so that we could either do it in one long chunk or like not do it live and then stream that separately. I think that'll be good. I think it'll be fun. So I'm pretty excited about doing that. So that's why he's here to talk about that.
So,
type of stuff.
so to kind of throw this in to get some discussion going, what do you think defines something as a Catholic fantasy versus not? Like, what would separate, say, Tolkien from somebody like Narnia, like with C.S. Lewis, who's not Catholic? What makes a Catholic fantasy a fantasy? Because mine has been called that and has been called not that. So,
Well,
I
mean,
think-
like, you have direct
Go.
references though. So
Yeah.
like,
I do.
so
I
like
do.
your
There's some
direct
facts,
references
yeah.
are like
Okay.
very, direct.
I think
but, like-
so. I think like. Sorry, go Pappas.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, so a big thing for Tolkien is the fact that he has so much Catholic parallels in his storytelling that can be pointed back to. So, like, for example, the 3 prominent women, Galadriel, the other elf that I can't remember right now, and Éowyn.
Erwin.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Éowyn, and then the I can't remember her name. What?
Stephanie.
Not Stephanie. The Shield Maiden.
Sheila.
Shield Maiden. The Shield Maiden.
Sheila?
That's a spider. Sheila.
No. The one who chops the head off the.
I
king.
know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Like, come on, this is not like a joke. Like, he did the joke. Yes, I'm sorry. He did the joke. You don't need to do the joke. It's but it's like, 3 represent Mary. Like, they're different versions of Mary.
Right.
And the
Gotcha.
third book is called
Gotcha.
The Return
Éowyn.
of the King.
It's Éowyn who kills the Nazgul,
The Witch, the
Right.
Witch King of
the
Angmar.
Witch King. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, there are Tolkien fans all through the audience screaming at the screen right now, I would think.
Probably.
How do
can't
you
remember
not
the
know
name.
this?
I am not religiously tied to that story,
Mhm.
but I find a lot of great inspiration from it.
It's a good story, and I think so. Like, I think what happens is when you're talking about like Catholic artists and writers and fantasy people. Like, I know people who are Catholic who do work, and there's no way to really separate them. Like, the people who you can't separate them from their Catholicism are the same people who can't separate Catholicism from their work, and like you're gonna find things flowing through like a river, right? Like, you're gonna find the Catholicism flowing through everything that they do,
Sure.
right? And like you'll be like, oh, I didn't know that person was Catholic, but then once you know, it's like I see it all, right? It's like so there's this comedy guy called Dude Dad, and I can't confirm that he is Catholic, but there are hints he's dropped. They're doing this sketch about like clothing, and he was talking to his wife about like the clothes that are in the clothes that were in the bin were dirty, and the clothes that were not in the bin were clean. And it's like, what about the clothes on the floor? Are they in purgatory? And he's like, pray for them. And it's just this small things like he's Catholic.
Yeah.
He's Catholic, or he grew up Catholic or something. But then they had like two kids back to back. Like, he's Catholic, but
Right.
I can't confirm it. But it's these, but like it flows through. So you might, when you're looking at it, you're like, I'm being very careful to not let my Catholicism show. Somebody else is like, oh man, look at that. This is so Catholic. But it's I don't think it's anything that you can put your finger on, like to say, oh, if they mention this, it means it's a Catholic thing. You just kind of
that's an
understand
excellent perspective, because you talked before, a fantasy guy, about what makes it Catholic. Well, Catholic isn't what you do, it's who you are, right? And so
Sure.
that is going to it will out in one's behavior and one's artistry at some point.
Well, like,
It is interesting how people interact with it, though. Like, you'll have, because with D&D there's faiths, but they're in like made up gods, right? And so
Right.
like I remember they had a guy who was to not get too into the weeds, he was playing a race called a giver, which is based on the book of the same title, where it's a person that can give and receive the same emotion, feeling, or like energy. They're like dryads, right? So like if you had a giver of anger, he could take away your anger or give it to you. They're very charismatic. And he was playing a giver of faith, and he said, well, because this is all like a lie, this is probably like a charlatan minister, right? And he played him like maybe like a prosperity gospel preacher. And it was interesting, like, because that was his interaction with faith, was that like faith is a lie and people who promote it are liars. And so when he played his character, he played it that way. And it was interesting because in the lore, it's just not. And so he ran into that, and we had some very interesting character moments because like your holy spells actually damage demons. So it's like, well, you can't play that in this world, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's enough in there that it bumps into things and gets interesting conversation started.
Yeah, there's a lot of accidental Catholicism in media as a whole, and what have I stumbled into? So there's a lot of Damien, you stumbled into a discussion about religion, Catholicism specifically, and fantasy. But when you look at like Hollywood, you see there's a lot of Catholics that are involved in it, but not on the main stage. And so they can kind of push a little bit here and a little bit there, and you get these notes, right? These little tiny notes of Catholicism that come through, like somebody who needs the rosary beads for something, even though it's not specifically saying that this person is Catholic. Like, they just have rosary beads, there as like a symbol of someone being faithful. Like there's that type of stuff that goes in there. Now those things aren't explicitly Catholic, but there's Catholicism flowing through it. So there's somebody there who has knowledge of the faith. And I think like those things are, I mean, I like it when you see it out there, right, in the wild. When you're watching a show, you don't expect it to happen, or they're trying to make fun of something, and it does. Like when you have people who actually take
Did it comment 3 times?
I don't know if it did. He'll be okay. I'm sure that nobody cares. But like there's the guy in the X-Men who teleports, and I had his name just
Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler, that's it.
Nightcrawler.
So Nightcrawler, he is exclusively like a Catholic monk. That is.
He becomes Pope, dude.
I did not read the one where he becomes Pope, but yeah, still like. But that's. I mean, it goes through his character. If you actually are serious about writing the character, you have to write him Catholic. And you see in some more modern takes, they try to like distance him from that. But there was a great in the 1990s X-Men show. There was a great episode where it's the monk, the Nightcrawler, the monk, and they meet him in his monastery. And not everyone in the monastery likes him, and the townspeople think he's evil, but he loves them just the same. And Logan, Wolverine, ends up finding his faith again because of Nightcrawler's faith, right? And it's something that I don't imagine will come back up in the Disney Plus reboot.
No.
But there's these things like these things like maybe someone will go back and like they'll do a great episode about Nightcrawler, and they'll look back into his history and they'll say he has to be Catholic because that's him, and they'll make that happen. Or maybe they'll just turn him into a guy who teleports, jumps around, and tries to assassinate the president.
That'll be it.
There's all sorts of, but like.
Well, and it's funny too, because like you'll have things that people run into within the game that they don't realize are Catholic, and they have like names and things. So like the orcs in my world, because they're always standing on the edge of society and dealing with great evils, they kill demons all the time. They're exorcists, and they have thuribles, like the big swinging incense,
right?
But they're made of like wood and so on, and so they're modeled after Catholic exorcists. I don't know if we just got one in the chat or not there. Though.
No, he's not Father Paul is not an exorcist, but hey, Father Paul is in the show. Hey, Father Paul.
What up? His Holiness is here.
Yeah. We're talking about the faith and fantasy, and I think the question which we got way off of was, how can you tell if a Catholic work is Catholic? Because the Catholic fantasy guy here, he wrote a tabletop RPG that we're going to be playing, not right now, but we're going to be playing at some point.
Right this moment.
Not at this moment. We're going to do it in a different episode.
Not ready.
Because I'm not prepared for it right now.
I'm just kidding.
So, so we're just talking. So that's what we're talking about. And I interrupted you when Father Paul came in, but you're talking about that you had orcs that are exorcists that kill demons, or exorcise demons, because as Damien has said, you can't kill a demon, but you can send them back to hell, which is, I mean, as close as you can get to killing a demon. I would say. Close. So,
I would like to see with the shows and stuff. I would actually like to see how many of them are Catholic now, as opposed to what they were in the past, in terms of like the writing
that
staff.
Would be good.
I'd love to know that, because like the timelessness of what's being sold right now is just not there. And like we've got that, right? Like that's the tradition. Like we've got that in spades. And even someone who's nominally Catholic will be able to associate with it. But someone who grows up that has grown up in the last like 20 years of our culture, I don't think that they necessarily would see it, because it's been pushed away so much.
Right, but what they see, I mean, what you see is that splendor, and that's like one of the things, like the churches, the old churches in Europe that aren't used as much for for mass anymore, but people still go in them as like a tourist spot, and they see just the glory that was, and they want to return to it, and that evokes feelings in them that can lead to conversion, which is neat. What do you think, Father? I'm putting you on the spot now. Fantasy and Catholicism.
Do you even know what an RPG is? Because I didn't until not too long ago.
Rocket-propelled grenade. No, it's a role-playing game. Like
now, if
Dungeons
we had
and Dragons.
Catholic rocket-propelled grenades, that would be
That would be
Well,
awesome.
we all remember the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch, of course.
Do not count to 4 if thou countest to 4.
My favorite thing is they say, and they feasted upon the orangutan, and I'm like, what is happening? So creepy.
So let's let Father Paul talk. Hi, Father Paul.
I
need more context. I'm on.
Yeah, well, we're talking.
Do you know anything about Dungeons and Dragons and all that sort of thing? Because I don't, and I'm just lurking in this conversation.
No,
Like a dragon in a dungeon.
Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada.
Okay.
And I heard of it, that it was something that, like, people did in the basement in the on their computers a long time ago, or is that not true?
Wow.
I have no idea.
Oh my goodness! I was in a classroom at school. Okay, it wasn't a basement. It was a regular.
I was in my
above-ground
friend's
classroom.
room.
Isn't that what those Stranger Things kids did?
Yes.
Yes.
Isn't that
That's
like what
accurate
got
what
them
it is.
into the whole entire upside down and everything like that?
No.
But it kind of led into it. But yeah, the pilot.
I don't know
episode
much
was
about
like
it. No, I really don't. No, I don't know much about it at all.
Have you played anything with fantasy in it? Like,
Do you like fantasy?
Besides real life?
Right.
There was like a word that we used for like kids that did that, which I can't repeat right here. So, when I was growing up.
And Father and I are from the same corner of the world, so
yeah.
It's funny because like my worlds intersect, doing boxing training and doing this, and I was introduced to fantasy role playing by bodybuilders. So whenever people are like, "Oh yeah, it's these nerds," I'm like, "You mean the guys that like bench 400 pounds, or the guys that like fight in professional fights?" Like, so
no, I think they mean me.
Only in publishing have I run into kind of the weird like basement dwellers that I now like know and call friends. But no, my introduction to it was very athletic, manly men that were like, "Let's be wizards for the night," and I was like, "Cool, I guess."
Hey, you know what? I just bench pressed like 800 pounds.
Not in northern New Jersey.
I just bench pressed 800 pounds. You guys want to roll some dice? Let's roll some dice. Yeah.
No, I have a lot. But I don't know if I didn't miss the beginning of the conversation. But like, if there's anything wrong with fantasy and Catholicism,
nothing wrong with it. It's just
okay.
how they intersect and like how you can tell if a work is a Catholic work or not. Like there's the little pieces, like because Tolkien on its face value, Tolkien does not explicitly say in Lord of the Rings, this is a Catholic story, but there are Catholic themes of redemption that run through it. There are Catholic themes of like true kingship. You could see the whole thing as an allegory, even though he didn't want it to be an allegory or something. Like there's a thing about how he didn't like allegories, but the Lord of the Rings is basically
he didn't like direct.
Right.
Yeah,
It was
like Aslan was a direct allegory to Jesus.
Right.
He literally dies for other people.
He dies for someone else's sins and then comes back to life and defeats you.
Right. Like whereas like Frodo doesn't die.
Right.
Like he gets corrupted.
Yeah.
But like he's the equivalent to like that sacrifice at that point.
Well, there's the three Christs that are just like they're the three Marys.
Right. But like,
the rings as well.
But like what he's doing is he's defeating original sin, right?
Right.
And the ring represents original sin. And so at the point where he's destroying the ring, he actually doesn't do it. He gets corrupted. And then there is a resurrection scene, right? We all remember Gandalf the White. Like, we all remember that, but like that wasn't as critical a moment as it was for Frodo. Like Frodo was the game winner. And so
Aragorn is the true king taking the true throne.
Right. And those are the three Jesus types.
And I think what fantasy and science fiction more broadly allows you to do is it allows you to explore. I've always divided the two, but I guess really they're kind of molding together in a way. But fantasy really allows you to personify things that aren't personified in our world. So like you can have orcs and they're evil, right?
Right.
And what's interesting about Tolkien's world is it pushes that question, because he had fans write him and they say, could you redeem an orc? And he said, technically, yes. Right? Because within his own work, there was like an internal cohesiveness that said, yes, orcs could be redeemed and so on and so forth. And orcs could interbreed with humans. And there's like all kinds of questions that get asked with that. Whereas in the real world, we don't have a sentient bipedal race trying to kill us, that's just evil and directed by evil and so on.
I mean, not a race of creatures, but a political party, sure.
Well,
I didn't say that. Yeah. I didn't say that.
Hey, we're gonna go there, bud.
all joking aside, I always feel like when people are talking about topics like this, I can never pretend. I never want to pretend to know, like to talk about something that I don't know much about. And I've always felt like I have a lot of respect and actually, I don't know if envy's the word or whatever, of like, whenever people talk about like Tolkien or, C.S. like all the, the English guys, like there's a Theology of the Body pilgrimage taking place in England this summer, and it's all about Tolkien and going to all those places. And I don't know, like, because like I go see Lord of the Rings. I never read it as a kid. I go see the movies and I'm like, oh, these are really cool movies. Like, and I wasn't really that much into my faith at the time when they came out, 20 something years ago or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, now like being in Catholic circles and hearing like when people are talking, I don't get it all. So I'm grateful when people try to like explain it and understand it. Like, I'm just not at that intellectual level. Like I think it's fascinating, but for some reason, like I don't pick up on these things. I don't know that. I know a little bit about C.S. Lewis. I know a little bit about Tolkien. And I heard that thing that Tolkien didn't like the direct allegory. He didn't want to make it like so plain and clear, So that's kind of like fascinating to me. I don't know much about Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that, but this is a topic that's interesting. Ow. Well, I just hurt myself. This is when I talk about things that I don't know, it's very painful. No.
So I can give you a question that's been posed in some of our own games. That's a unique Master's Tale question. Explain it, and then just kind of get y'all's thoughts on it.
Yeah, sure.
We have a race called the Merfolk, and the Merfolk are like fish people, right? And what they can do is after they give birth, they have eggs outside of the body, and they have these kind of mothers that can alter the genes of the merfolk after they're laid as eggs. So we want this to be a little bit more like a shark or a little bit more like a crocodile or a little bit more like a crab, right? They can give them these kind of sea life. Think like maybe like Pirates of the Caribbean, the kind of sea pirate type of things where they're each one's a different type of fish. And there's ethical questions that get raised all the time because they're born and given specific roles. And so we'll have characters that say, hey, I'm a big shark guy, but, I just want to settle down and open a restaurant. But, I'm a giant shark man whose like whole purpose is to tear people up and so on. And so we've made tons of fun characters with that really challenging idea of like, if you're born and made to do something, and it's very much heavy allegory for like controlling parents or you're from a specific background or whatever have you. But in this case, it's in your genes. And so that opens up the question of like, do they have free will? Do they not? Is it right for them to break off? Is it not? That type of thing. And so I guess kind of y'all's thoughts on that's kind of where fantasy, I think, can really ask these questions in like in a way that's not threatening. Where you're not going, well, you're not talking about my overbearing father. It's like, no, we're talking about magic fish people. But also, we might be talking about your overbearing father or your, whatever.
My overbearing father was a magic fish person. So it's a very tough subject for me. I mean, what you're raising though, the idea that you're raising is like it's like I would like the initial thought about these merfolk people is that sounds objectively evil to take to like take a child and to genetically modify them to turn them into something that you want them to be. And so like that's my initial like reaction to that when you're saying, oh, and they can make this more like a shark, and this one's more like an octopus, and this one has 3 eyes on its left toe or something, right?
It gets problematic way before the idea of the shark man wanting to break away and open a ballet school or whatever, that kind of
thing. Right, 100%. Go ahead, modern.
Our man who raises his hand during these conversations.
Well, I don't want to interrupt anybody. So
interrupt away.
I never interrupt people.
The first thing I see is Gattaca, right? Like, except instead of just emphasizing certain traits of a human, it's very specialized in mer people. The second is I do see this as a type of allegory for your purpose. Like God's purpose with you, and that he gives you talents, and that those talents are to be used and not wasted. And so there's a wrong way of doing that, and there's a right way of doing that. But there's the grappling that the mer people seem to have is that how do they do that best, right?
Well, and they can, right? Like, because we're getting to that point where we can start modifying the genes of children. Like, that's not going to be science fiction, and it's not, so should they do it at all?
No.
Objectively, no. In a fantasy world, that's different. So, because you could show, like, there's a few things you can do, but like I said, like when it comes to what God has given you, like, because you could make the argument, all right, so you're conditioned, you're put in a spot, you're emphasized with certain gifts, and you live them out, and as you grow up, you end up becoming like really good at something. Well, the modification within the fantasy world could be a justification of quickening that.
Sure.
And so that you've got this, instead of waiting 18 years to go and live through that, you've now done it like within 5 seconds, right after they're born.
Right.
And so I'm not making this case for like people. Playing God is not okay, but like it's and I do consider that to be a level of playing God. But like this idea of purpose that like, well, I really should be focusing on things that I'm good at, and if I deviate too much of my time to things that I'm not good at, I'm wasting my talents and I'm affecting the people around me because of that.
Yeah, and I think that would be something close to the argument that would be used in universe. And it's I don't think that the game doesn't give like an answer to that. It just says, here's this weird set of people, they do this.
Right.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
It leaves a bad taste in my mouth, like that like I feel like so if I were one of these fish people, right? If I were one of these fish people, I'd be the weird one that's like, not just the one that's a giant shark man that wants to run a restaurant, even though he's a giant shark man. I'd be the giant shark man that would be trying to destroy whatever thing is that's allowing them to do this. Like
sure.
Either magic or genetic manipulation. Like I feel like that's the kind of character that I would go with, because like, but that complication, like I understand what you're saying. Like, these people can do that, whether it's right or wrong. They have the physical ability to do so, and that's a moral thing that you have to kind of contend with as the people. Like you could definitely run a campaign where those guys are the bad guys.
Oh, 100%.
Because like they raise an army of people of children. They raise like child soldiers and send them into battle. Like it's so easy to just just based upon like it can be changed for evil. And you can also say like they could be trying to do it for good. Like a child is a child is born and they only have one leg instead of two, and so you can allow them to have a second leg, right? And that could be a good thing, but I don't know.
And in universe too, there are a lot of mistakes made, and so that raises that question too. Is like, especially for the Glade, which are like a subrace of them that are supposed to be beautiful. And if they're not beautiful, very often they're like, relegated to labor or ostracized from society.
So you're making me want to buy the book now. I don't know if that's
well.
Right?
Well,
I don't
all
know
the
if that's your
races are
goal.
thought out that way. Like it's very much like, okay, let's grapple with like if there was these weird non-humanoid things, like what would they look like?
You were asking like if what about your thing could make it Catholic, and I could definitely see the morality of the different races, like exploring that morality, and that there is morality there, and it's not just let's go and kill a dragon and take its gold, right? It's you've got cultures and you've got subcultures and you've got depth.
But what's more interesting is that every player resists it. Every player that plays a merfolk plays against type, and it tells you something about humanity by playing the character, by saying, hey, I don't like the fact that I'm like in this box. It's like good. But I don't have to say it. I don't have to tell you don't like to play in a box and you don't like to be stuck.
I think that's the American in all of us. I think it might play differently in Europe.
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, especially with how they've been the last few years with everything going on over there.
Yeah, like Americans are very much you can't tell me what to do, even if the thing that you're being told to do is like we're it's you have to eat your vegetables. I don't have to eat my vegetables. I'm just going to eat steak and candy all day. I'll be fine. And then that guy just ate steak and candy today and he was fine. So I'll be fine. Like, no, that guy's an aberration. Don't just eat steak and candy. And then, then you give up the steak because it's not sweet enough. So you're just eating candy all day. And that is why I have to go to the doctors. No, none of that. That's not me. That's somebody else.
That's
somebody.
Well, back on the whole is it Catholic thing. I think you guys are touching on it. What are the consequences of being able to do what the merfolk do?
Sure, right.
What does that mean? So that certainly puts them up against free will later when this thing that they've so carefully engineered decides to. If you allow free will to play a role in the RPG, then that's definitely going to monkey wrench anybody's plans.
Right, it's kind of like the opposite of like a paladin, right? Because a paladin can't do certain things, and like if you're really playing a paladin in D&D, you can't. There are things you can't do, and you can't allow it to happen. But there are people who play it differently. But
they play it wrong. Okay.
Yes.
Like what I do is I usually whenever I've played D&D 3 times, and I've played, and so like I'm coming off as some sort of expert with that announcement, but it's like the paladins are lawful good, like by necessity. You know who they can't like team up with?
Warlocks.
Yeah, they can't, and anybody who's like chaotic good or chaotic evil, they can't be with.
Right.
Like, because what they're doing, what their perspective on life is just so divergent, and only in a postmodernist world will you be like, oh yeah, that's fine. It's completely fine. Okay, this guy arbitrarily kills people is teaming up with this guy who's like supposed to protect them.
And that was I will defend it.
Go ahead.
I will defend it. If you play the paladin right, the paladin is a missionary, right? So if you have like a paladin that's a missionary, that they are trying to actively bring the chaotic evil over to good, I think you could make that work. But a lot of times it's just the paladin will turn around and not look as the chaotic evil guy just kills people.
Okay, I just want to point out, Damien. Okay, Damien, I understand what you're saying, but that's not the historical aspect of a paladin. It doesn't I get that Wizards of the Coast went off the hinges and started like diverging like everything because they wanted everybody to play the character even if they were evil. Not to mention the influence from World of Warcraft and Death Knights. So they wanted to make a Death Knight type thing. So I totally get where you're coming from, and technically you're correct. But if
I'm sorry, I feel bad now. I'll leave.
No,
you're with something else.
Yeah, Father, I love you, Father.
I'm sure. Isn't it called the Late Night Levity? I'm just adding some levity.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, no, you're good.
That's
You're good.
exactly it. Yeah, it's totally on brand.
I love it. I thought it was funny. Even I was like, I enjoy playing role playing games so much. Like last time I played one, it wasn't even D&D. It was like a DC like online, and you could pretend to be a superhero.
Oh,
And I had so much fun. Yeah, I had so much fun with it, and it's just I love about these games that you can stop it, and then like a week or two goes by, and homie's like, hey, you want to finish the rest of the adventure, and you can just hop in and just join in. It's really fun.
I did.
And we crack jokes
Are
all
you
the time.
advertising? Are you advertising for it?
No. I don't even know what it is. Yeah,
I
don't
did
even
City
know
of
what it is.
Heroes. That was my
City
thing.
of
Everyone
Heroes?
had their own MMO, whatever that they, they played.
Yeah, mine was WoW. So
You know, I don't even.
Jenkins, guys.
I did
My
not
last
like
role
WoW.
playing game, I played a pewter top hat.
Oh, you know what? Monopoly is my jam. Okay, and my wife won't play it with me anymore because I always win, and I don't just win, I crush.
What
so
is
was
the
I. But
Top
then I
Hat's backstory? Is the Top Hat deeply convicted of anything?
Exactly.
Did the shoe kill its mother, and now it has to get revenge?
The top hat is the top hat you flip over when you've run low on money, so people can put dollars into it. That's the point of the top hat. So when you play the top hat, it's like you can collect rent in it. And you take the top hat and you say, "Okay, give me your money," or "I need some money. Could you please give me some money?"
See, my wife used to not love playing with me with Monopoly, and then I taught her the ways, and now I don't want to play Monopoly with her.
But I don't play Monopoly with anybody. I played with one guy from grammar school every day after school for like a year, and I maxed on it. But you brought up something interesting, Papist, when you said they play it wrong. That immediately led me to Monopoly because every family has their own rules about Monopoly. So is there a sense in any of these role-playing games, Fantasy Guy, Papist, that the free will of the players enters into it and the world gets changed? The world of the game gets changed by the people playing it.
100%.
Yeah, that's like the most that's one of the reasons that's one of the main reasons why people like it is because you're the player and you are acting as one of those people. Like that's what makes it really fun is that you're able to impose your free will. I mean, not impose, play out your free will.
Sure.
Through this, like what Catholic Fantasy Guy was saying with a restriction, like you get to basically pick your restrictions as well as your benefits, and so it's playing into those.
Oh yeah, I love this.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things too that I see a lot is that people will definitely change things up. But a lot of Master's Tale was player submitted, so all the expansions are 75% fan made, basically. So we encourage that, and people will come to us and say, "Hey, I really want to see this in the game," and I say, "Great, we've discovered a new set of islands, and guess what it has on it? Those things." So we were definitely more open to that process, and I think it's made it feel it's just cool. Like the youngest person that we published, I think, is 12. And did like some really amazing artwork that we took and like digitally kind of fixed up, and
that's awesome.
Has stuff published in the game.
So, like, quick question: you brought this up. Who's your cardinal?
Tobin. Joseph Tobin.
Oh, Joseph. Okay, got it.
Yeah, there's two Tobins. Well, one's not a cardinal, but
yeah.
That always confuses me. I know we're having a discussion here, but a headline came across, and I think we should say something about it.
Which one?
A priest bit a woman who tried to steal Holy Communion.
Yes, my wife showed me that one. Oh my gosh, it was
just your typical priest bites communion stealing woman story.
So I will fight anybody. I will fight anybody who says
we got to teach that dude to jab.
No, I know. It's like after I
Papist.
learned a bit about the story, I'm like, I'm team priest because here's the thing: she called it a cookie, so he denied it to her. She tried to steal it from him, and so he bit her, and then somebody else restrained her.
Not only did he try to, so that was the second time because earlier he had asked, she was doing things that didn't suggest she was disposed, and so he asked her to go to confession, and then she came back, and she did what you said, and then when he presented the host to her, she grabbed the dish with the hosts in it and actually scraped against them, like crumbling a lot of them, like at that presentation. It was terrible, right?
Yeah.
But like the priest, I think, reacted totally appropriately, and it seems that the bishop supported him.
So, Father Paul, as a priest, what are your thoughts?
Well, now let's get the geography right here, because Father Paul was a little late getting on to the broadcast. Recently in Florida, New Jersey.
It was in Florida.
Father Paul's throwing uppercuts, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't think Father Paul's
I'm in awe. I'm in shock. I'm Googling this right now. And I love, I've never seen this before ever. They're quoting him. This is the Catholic News Agency, and says, the priest said, "I recognize that I bite her as a defense and as defending myself and defending the sacrament." He said in English with a Spanish accent. Have you ever seen that written before?
I have never seen that written before. That's
yeah,
so
and then the woman said, "I just want a cookie. That's all."
oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
So I mean, I mean, you know, Jesus did say to just, to tear the flesh. So maybe that's what he was trying to do. But no, I'm kidding. The word he used.
Catholics are cannibals. Gee,
children, yeah, like flesh for. That's an interesting thing. One
hand hand's holding the host, the other hand is holding the rest of the hosts. If he tries to defend himself in any other way, he's going to drop. His only other choice would be to pull back and headbutt her.
That's what I was.
But like that's still going to be
different. She put her arm in the ciborium.
Yes.
Oh man.
So he bit her. And you know what? I am when I first saw this, it says all it said. The headline was Florida priest bites woman over cookie. And
did you say Florida priest like Florida man?
Yes, Florida priest bites parishioner over cookie claim. And like that's a weird headline. So I had to click it. And then when I look into it, I'm like, I'm team priest.
I can't get over that.
I mean, I wish that was fantasy. I mean, it is for this woman, thinking it's a cookie.
Well, I mean, we're not gonna. Don't comment on the.
She sounds like a witch or something. Like a.
That's the thing. Like it sounds like possession or something like that. So
yeah,
talk about dragons.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
So I was telling Mandy. I was like, all right, so like the first time she comes, it's very. Like it seems respectable. Like, I mean, she doesn't seem to be crazy. She's just whatever. And the priest is like, all right, you need to go to confession before you come back. That's not unreasonable. And, it happens. But then when she came back the second time, told him it's none of his business that she went to confession, which considering that he told her to go to confession, I don't know where that line is drawn. Maybe like Father Paul, you can like specify that. But like he was like, okay, well, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and give you the Eucharist. It was like the second she got hold of it, she reached for the rest of them, the rest of the hosts, and it was like, what a visceral reaction! Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like why would at that point like she do that?
And you know what I would say, the commendation I have for the priest, and I'm not defending biting people, right? But he had such reverence for the host, for the Eucharist, for Christ, that he would defend and not drop. Because I think there'd be a lot of priests out there, a lot of people out there not thinking that would just be like, I'm going to drop this. I'm going to take care of whatever this lady is. He's like, no, I cannot drop it. So he bit her in order to get her to go away. And somebody else came up behind and like took her down. But like, that is a man who truly believes in the true presence. Because I've gone to many masses where I don't think the priest believes in the true presence, but that is a priest who does.
Is there any way
Like,
there's a video? Could we show it or no? Should we not?
Yeah, I think
We could show it if
if
it's
I can get it.
possible to screen. You can
let me-
show it through.
Yeah, there's a
screen or-
presentation on the bottom that you got.
Yeah, let me go in. I've got my my stuff up here. Let me go in and
Because
I'm gonna
I haven't
share my
seen this.
screen.
Now,
This
so
is-
what was the scenario? So he told her like he knew she wasn't in a state of grace and that she needed confession beforehand.
Beforehand, he had suspected and asked her.
Or
There was some sort of dialogue between them, and from the article that my wife shared, there was some sort of dialogue between them in the first mass.
This
And then-
was today or just this week?
I don't know. I don't remember.
that's tough.
I would think it was last
Right
week,
there.
not today. But
It's this lady.
Yeah.
Interesting. This is
Oh,
one-
I don't have the. Let me put the audio. Let me represent it with the audio. 'Cause I don't think I had the audio in there. Oh, I have it. No, entire screen. Oh, I can't do audio.
And it
Oh,
does
yeah,
the
yeah.
John Cena music as he.
John Cena.
does.
That's an edit we'll have to make
Is there
later.
a closer one here?
Well, so here's
Church in St.
here's
Cloud, and there,
what I
like
got.
churches all over the world this past Sunday, parishioners received communion. But this unidentified
Pentecost.
woman says when she tried, she was bit by the priest, identifying him on this body camera as Father Fidel. She told St. Cloud police the scuffle started when she tried to receive communion.
He wouldn't give me a cookie. I don't know if it was.
She literally said he wouldn't give me a
he
cookie.
literally says cookie.
A witness telling police in this report that she was singled out because of her sexuality and attire.
So they
Oh my goodness.
Now, of course.
So that may have been Father Paul. That may have been the reason if she brought up like wearing a rainbow flag or something.
Some of that confrontation from a feed the church streams online. But the priest told
Wow.
police a different story. He said the woman came to the 10 o'clock mass but didn't seem to know the process of receiving, so he denied her the bread. He said she came back to another service and tried again, but this time the confrontation happened when she tried to grab the bread out of his hand, telling police he was protecting the bread because it's considered the body of Christ.
I'm not joking you. I'm asking you, did you confess after the other mass to receive communion now? Because if you confess, I can give you communion. I buy her. I'm not denying that. And as defending myself, I'm defending this act.
It made it clear that was the only reason, telling those same officers that he didn't know her or what her sexual orientation is and doesn't care about that.
I don't use nobody.
I spoke to the priest the woman identified on the body camera by phone. He did not want to answer questions and hung up.
Okay, so that's
Yeah, of course they're making it a yeah, whatever. But that I
That'd
mean,
be free.
wow. I mean, look, man, if somebody is forcefully, you see that she's forcefully going into the body of Christ, you have to defend that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it doesn't mean you got to bite her. I don't know. I mean, that was his
Well,
reaction to her, but
if you have nothing else, like if she's grabbing up, like you got to presume
yeah,
that
yeah,
she's trying
yeah.
to like my whole thing is if she was like if somebody comes to the 10 a.m. mass and you deny them communion and they come back for like the 12 p.m. mass to try to do this to try to get communion again, and you've already denied them earlier that day, you recognize that there's someone you denied. Why are they coming back? They're trying to make somebody's recording and they're trying to make a scene like that her friend is recording on the phone. You could see that like she showed the recording. So somebody's recording this interaction that's
Yeah.
happening. This is a setup. This is
Yeah.
a setup in some way. Either she's trying to get the reaction out of the priest so that she can get the priest in trouble, or
Yeah.
she's trying to take the host.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah.
mean, look, unfortunately,
Absolutely.
and there's going to be a lot of people that are even going to say, well, no, and even priests that no one should ever be denied. That's not the place. That's not the time on the line, which I think is like baloney. You know, but so that's something that we're going to have to address too, because there's going to be people say, well, is that even the place or the time to talk to anybody? You know, so that's a whole other thing.
If a priest denies you communion, and this is for anyone out there, if a priest denies you the Eucharist, the recourse that you have is not to try to take it. If a priest denies you communion and you think it's unjust, right? You go to confession. You can go talk to that person's the priest bishop, or the pastor at the, the pastor at the if it's not the pastor that denied you. Like there are recourses you can have if you feel you've been unjustly denied.
The gentleman who was recently denied communion for kneeling did not.
No, he didn't steal the Eucharist, and he didn't bite. You don't have a right to the body of Christ that you think that you have. Like it is something that God.
I mean, you gotta be. I'm just gonna interrupt you there.
Yeah, go.
That is not entirely correct. Like you can't say that you don't have a right if you're properly disposed and you're receiving communion, and the reason why you're denied is because you're kneeling. Mm-hmm. The priest doesn't have a right to deny.
I was almost
on those grounds.
Kneeling.
I've
been denied at my grandfather's funeral for kneeling, and I stayed there and I said, the Vatican says you cannot do that. And I stuck my tongue back out and he gave me communion. So like I am very passionate about this particular point because I have been cited at my grandfather's funeral for this. But it's like
it's crazy. Yeah, you don't but you would have been in the wrong if you went up to grab the host.
Absolutely. I'm just saying like there are like I think you protested too far. That's all.
Right. Okay. What I'm saying is you don't have a right to the communion to the point where you can take it from a priest's hand.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you have your rights if you are properly disposed and you show up for mass and you go and like you have that right, then you shouldn't be denied it. But if a priest denies you, there are
peaceful ways to deal with that.
Right. There are peaceful ways to do it, or just you can also walk away from that moment. Sorry, Aaron Roger. That's something that goes up. But yeah, like there are proper ways and improper ways, and I'm sorry for derailing. I went to look to see what our view count was, what my view count was, and when I did that, that's when I saw I was like, hold on a second.
What is our view count, Steve-O?
Is that a 199?
199.
Nice.
It's been going up ever since we've been on. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. My wife is on.
I just went on YouTube right now on my phone to see, and it said 2.
Well, we're all combined. We're all streaming on every single one of our.
Yeah, there's 100 people.
Great.
Yeah, I looked on mine. There's 100 people watching my stream. There's like probably on my Catholic comedy stream we've got
it'll tell me up here right now. Actually, honestly, yeah, you're carrying the team right now. I'm actually second with 48 on X, and then Late Night Levity, and then I think Papas is up there and competing as well.
I got to figure out how to get that feed going for next time because I could easily up that by 5.
Hey. It's like whenever I increase my sales from 1 to 2, hey, it's a win.
it's 100% increase, man. And 5 extra people. Look, we're saving souls here, maybe. Asterisk. Quite possibly saving souls here. So an extra 5 people would be great. Okay. I think we had a very fun and lively conversation. There are a couple more things I want to get to. One of them being our musical guest, Catholic Song Guy, brought his guitar, so I would like to give him an opportunity to play a song for us today. So, Steve, if you want to focus in on him.
Sorry, I got distracted. What was that?
Focus in on the Catholic Song Guy. Focus on Catholics.
Oh, just him. We're gonna give him a solo.
Yeah, we're giving him a solo.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, when I was a lad back in the area where Father Paul Hulis is a priest, northern New Jersey, it was the 1970s, and we were doing things like trying to turn the score of Godspell into a de facto hymnal. And so this is a little something about those days. Well, I'm an old Catholic guy and I love my guitar and I really love the Mass. In my younger days, I thought I could blend them together with style and class. But that was the 1970s when people used to brag about their disco moves, their lava lamps and orange deep pile shag. Putting banners up instead of statues was kind of crass. Turning top 40 tunes into hymns was no way to mass. Mea culpa for the things we tried to get away with way back when. Well, I'm just glad this is now and that was then.
Hey, I love that.
That's great.
Let me add everybody back. There we go. Sorry for my unprofessionalism. I was reading a comment.
Did we
Thanks,
lose?
Father Paul.
Did we lose John?
Did we lose
No, he's
John?
still there. He's just not back on the.
Oh,
Like, if I
okay.
put him up,
Good.
he's just
Good.
blank. I didn't want to.
Father Paul, next time you're talking to Monsignor Bokikio, he may have heard me do some kind of rendition of some song from Godspell at a mass in Jersey City back in the day.
So,
All right.
All right, he's coming back now. Let me add him in. There you go. There you go.
Sorry, I was behind the screen.
Oh, okay, I was making sure. I didn't want to show just like a blank screen there. I didn't know if you were gone or just. You're good.
No. I'm back.
okay, awesome. I mean, I used that opportunity to get myself a glass of water, so I mean, we're all good. It was. I'm sure it was a good song.
That tends to be the reaction to my performances.
Oh no!
These are wireless headphones. I
People
heard
go
you
to
the
the
whole
bar,
way.
they go to the bathroom. Sometimes they even actually leave the room to do these things.
Oh man!
No, our view count went up to 100, so we actually gained a viewer because of you. So,
But yeah,
I brought one.
That was pretty good.
That was good. That's a good.
I loved it. No, like I told
I'm
you, I
not
played.
saying we need to go into this. I'm just wondering because I came in very late to the game.
Yeah.
Have you guys like addressed like the Harrison Butker talk at all?
We have
Not
not.
yet.
No.
So we can bring it up.
Can we?
No, I don't know if I was just curious. I don't know why I brought it up.
We did not bring it up, and I think so. My thought is that Modern Papist has no strong feelings about this.
He never has strong feelings about anything.
I'm sure that he does that if we asked him, he wouldn't be able to talk for 20 to 30 minutes straight on this issue. Certainly not.
Oh,
Maybe we should do an episode
I have
just
a
on
feeling.
that. I want to
I have
read.
a feeling you've been watching my channel lately.
What's your channel?
Can I? I'm going to say one thing
it
before
is
I
modern-
unleash the Pap.
It is Modern Papist.
Before I release the Papist, release the Papist. I do want to say that I am surprised it has remained in the news for as long as it has. I thought something else would overshadow it before this. So I wasn't planning on talking on this because I would have figured at some point people would stop talking about it, and they haven't. So I think that in and of itself is interesting. But Papist, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you think?
Well, on that point,
Be prepared to do the censor button. You know, the beeps.
Right. It's fine. On that point, I actually think it's because of an ego. So those that are really pushing feminism really want to be heard about their feminism because it's kind of like their time to shine, right? Like we've had the transgenders like, oh, well, like we've had like a year and a half of them and they've kind of pushed feminism to the side because the very nature of their arguments reject feminism. So now feminists have something to latch onto because they haven't been able to put anything in their mouth and just bite down and have an argument about. So they're able to. I think that's why it's not going away. I think this is their topic that they want to emphasize and promote because they haven't been able to promote it in their usual ways because their side is pushing something else.
It's certainly a lot of selective reporting going on about it because he said some amazing things to young men in the same speech, and we haven't heard word one about that.
It's the same thing that I would say about this. The same thing I would say about anyone who talks about like the roles of men and women in households and stuff like that, and that it's an ideal and we should strive for it. And there's some people who can't, and we shouldn't make those people feel badly for not being able to do that. Like for people who have to have. If both parents have to work in order to provide for their children, have to work, right? Like that is an unfortunate situation, and I think we should take a moment to say, yeah, it's sad that we live in a world where you can't just have one. You know, you can't just have
a mom stay home because of any number of reasons why. And I think there's a lot of people who are on one side of it, right? On the one side, they're saying, no, women should be in the workforce, blah, blah, blah. Like they're really pushing the feminist ideals. And on the other side, you have people who are also just as wrongly saying women have no place outside of the home. And like that's like, I don't think that it's helpful when we have the big polarized conversation. When you have like reasonable people in the middle, I'm not just, and I'm not middleism or whatever, but moderatism. Like people who are reasonable, who say, yeah, we understand what the ideal is, and we understand that not everyone can fit that ideal, and you're not less of a person if you can't fit that ideal. And there are people who will definitely say, you are a bad husband if your wife works, or you are a bad wife if you work. And no, I don't keep my wife shackled to the kitchen sink.
I keep mine.
It's not a shackle. It's an invisible fence. She can go out to the front yard, but if she gets in the car, no, none of that.
Well, so like I'm gonna push back just a little bit because I think
back. You go ahead.
Right, like that is the line that is the phrasing that has been used to get us to this very point. The problem is that it's a perspective issue from the earliest onset that deviates. So like it's like the farther back your premises go that are wrong, the more you deviate. So if your first premise is there and it's wrong, like you're going to have a terrible answer for the rest of it because you just initially started wrong. And that's, I think, the heart of what he was saying, because obviously he was promoting, like his first lines, even getting into the homemaker statement, was that about how women were looking forward to going into their careers and their promotions. Like he covered that from the onset. It was the fact that homemaker is looked at disproportionately in a negative light when most women, I would argue, based off studies of Scandinavian egalitarian groups, that women prefer that. Like women prefer to be at home, supported by a husband, taking care of their kids, and not being like, because like that comparison of, well, it's your boss or your husband. Like that's very real. Like the reason why a secretary, like you hear about like affairs with secretaries, I'm just using a very like natural, like
go on,
a typical one is because what the secretary is doing is what she should be doing for her husband. She's making appointments, she's getting him food, she's like literally providing for him in like home-based reason or home-based ways, but it's at an office. And then an affair happens because it's a sexual thing that she's doing for him. It's just a lower level sexual thing than the actual act itself, because it's the interplay between the male and the female in the workplace. Now that's not like in every case. I don't want to give the impression that it's in every case. I
was a secretary for a period of time.
Right. Like, and
I don't have to talk about that. You bring it up bring it up in confession, sir. Bring it up in confession, okay?
Well, like, because like I work with a bunch of women, and like I don't have a relationship like that with them, right? Like they're not under me, but it's like this. It's just the dynamic of how we understand women and men in the workplace is not entirely understood. Because we still have what do you call it, affairs. So we have affairs at a very high level, like, and so it's like, okay, well, you spend 8 hours a day with this person. I'm not surprised. Like,
this is the thing. It's like, so what he said was right, and that and I do know, like from the people that I know, and I would say. For most women, they do want to be home with their families. And you know what? Same for most men would like to be able to be home with their families more too. And like, but men are the ones that typically make that sacrifice, that they're going to sacrifice some of their temporal happiness for the happiness of their families, where they're going to go and work at a job in order to be able to take care of their families.
And it is a sacrifice. I think framing your career as being the most important thing is
right. Your career is like the least important thing in your life, and you realize that once you have kids, you realize your career is the least important thing in your life. It is a necessary thing, but it's the least important. The only way that your career is the most important thing in your life is if you are a priest. Because otherwise, like
on the other side of that, we're going to get back to Father Paul because he brought this whole thing up. We should find out what he has to say about it. But
yeah, what does Father Paul have to say?
Has his vocation as a priest. He has his job as a chaplain at the cemetery. It's the chaplain at the cemetery isn't who he is. A priest is who he is. Writer and editor is what I do. Husband and father is my vocation. That kind of thing. So we all have a vocation and a job, so to speak.
I think we've lost that that nuance between who you are and what you do. Father Paul,
what is your position on the whole Harrison Butker thing, Father? What made you want to talk about it?
Because I just got an email from Chris Stefanik that he just released a video about it.
I watched it. I just watched that video.
You watched what?
I watched that video. Yeah,
on Chris Stefanik. Yeah, I want to really honestly. That's why I shouldn't have brought it up because I really want to watch his video before I really talk about it because I've only heard the speech once and I listened to it in its entirety one time and I want to do it again and then I'm going to watch Stefanik's video about it. I like Stefanik a lot. Him and I were talking offline a bit. He was telling me that he was going to do this video, ask for a lot of prayers. The first time I heard it, the only time that I heard his speech, and that's without talking to Stefanik, he had me at pretty much everything until he started talking about, I'm sorry, guys, the TLM. Not that I think there's anything wrong with the TLM. I'm not like a hater in any which way, shape, or form. The way that I heard it, the way that he talked about it, when he said it's so essential to our lives that I would ask each of you, direct quote, to move to a place that has it. So to me, it was like the only way to worship God properly is by the Latin Mass, and you should all move your whole family to a place that. Yeah. So he lost me there. I think he could have made some great points about the Latin Mass, whatever, but the stuff that he was saying before that, I thought was like so good that I was like, all right, I don't know, what's going, like he's going to lose that by going on to this or whatever.
Right.
And then what I didn't realize, and I only found this out talking to some people later and reading some quotes, is that he possibly, I don't want to say definitely, but quite possibly criticized, and we could debate about this because I'm not saying he definitely did, but criticized or even condemn natural family planning, which I have a big problem with. So I'm not saying he definitely did that, but it could be interpreted that way. But it could also be interpreted another way. So
I have a lot of mixed feelings about natural family planning. And I'm going to let Pappas talk so I don't get in trouble. Go.
Well, by the way, I'm not going on my own personal opinion on this, right? I want to go with the Catholic.
Oh yeah, so Catholic personal opinion. I have issues.
So I go to a reverent. I describe it as a reverent Novus Ordo. Okay, so like we have a lot of things that people wish their Novus Ordo would have, like kneelers, incense, ad orientem, intinction, no altar girls, no extraordinary ministers. So like when I say it's a reverent, like our hymns are not from the last 30 years or 40 years. They're from the span of the church's tenure, and the ordinaries are all done in Latin. So we have the vernacular, but all the ordinaries are done in Latin. So that's like a quick summarization of what we do and what I mean by reverent Novus Ordo. So I did a video where I compared the Novus Ordo to the TLM in terms of beliefs and practices. And so I, like contraception, abortion, and same-sex marriage and all that stuff. But what I finish at the end, because like I'm a statistician by trade, so like that's what I do as a job. And so, but what I do at the end is I emphasize that for a lot of people who go to the TLM, like the TLM is beautiful. I used to go to one. I don't anymore, but I used to go to one. It is beautiful, but it doesn't, like, it's not practical for most people to experience because of the distribution of them. And in a lot of cases, it's because they're looking for something different because their parish that they're at is treated like a club. Like it doesn't feel reverent. It doesn't feel like something mystical is happening between the hands of the priest during the consecration. It doesn't feel like what they are there for is what they're doing. And it's very much like Shia LaBeouf when he said, it doesn't feel like you're being sold a car. Like at my parish, I don't feel like I'm being sold I don't feel like I'm being sold a car at my Reverend Novus Ordo. But there are parishes I will not go to in the Archdiocese of Detroit because of how, like, that is the mentality that they have. Now, I'm not saying it's a majority of the Archdiocese of Detroit. I would never, unless that was actually true, I would not say that. But they exist. And so like, I think that's, if I had to take what he was saying, that's what I would say he was trying to get at. And he may not know otherwise. I mean, he is 28, so he's unfortunately not like he has. There is a high potential for error given his upbringing, with what the church is teaching. So I don't know his upbringing, so like I'm ignorant on that. But it's just like because he's 28, there's a lot of things that could be there.
What just very quickly, if you don't mind, you don't have to go any detail, but. Did you how is Stefanik's video about it? Was it helpful, not helpful, yada yada?
Yeah. So like there's some factual things that he brings up. Ironically I have some criticism of it, but I left it on his page. It was in regards to the priest, like the grouping of the priests of in regard of what was it? The part where oh my gosh, what is it? The part where like the pictures, they would set up their hobbies for pictures, but not focus on the congregation, like that part. Because I kind of thought that was like kind of a cheap shot from Chris Stefanik, because it was like, well, that's a generalization, and that's a generalization that resonates with a lot of people, and that's why he's saying it. Like there's a subgroup of priests that are just like that, or at least they do actions that reflect that. So, I thought that was kind of odd, but then there were other things where it was like, yeah, he's wrong. Like, and I thought he did a really good job covering that. So, but I do agree though with the NFP thing. So getting back to it, because I don't want to like hog everything. The one thing that bothered me was the spacing point on the NFP, where he said like we shouldn't be spacing, and I'm like, yeah, like that's totally within your realm, but you can take it, Catholic Comedy. I don't want to keep talking. So
Stefanik said that, or Bucker?
So that was something that Bucker said, that he said something along the lines of, because I can't remember exactly right now.
I'll give you the direct quote here, because somebody texted me it specifically, and I'm waiting for him. All right, direct quote. Heterodox ideas abound even within Catholic circles, but let's be honest, there is nothing good about playing God with having children, whether that be your ideal number or the perfect time to conceive. No matter how you spin it, there is nothing natural about Catholic birth control. End quote.
So yeah, like the idea that I can find out when my wife's most fertile is not a problem. Like, there's no frustration there. So
sorry, Catholic Comedy. Sorry.
No, it's okay. But so based on that quote alone, you could you can debate either way whether or not he's talking about NFP being Catholic birth control. I think, like you said, I have
my own thoughts on NFP, and I know that that those thoughts are my own and not necessarily the teaching of the church, so I don't push them upon other people. But I can see where like he's coming from, and I can see, even if he's talking about, like if he's actually talking about NFP, which you could argue he is or isn't, but it seems like he is. I have to be very careful and measured, because this is like a nuke. if you step on it the wrong way. I don't like that. I don't like the way some people use NFP. I'm not saying that it's morally wrong. I'm saying that I find children to be the greatest gift in life, and when people try to find a way to avoid having children for convenience sake, not for health reasons, not for anything, but because they want to go and have, want to go and like they want to go on vacation more or something like that. I take personal issue with those things. When I went through my marriage prep, which was later after I had already gotten married because we reverted and we wanted to get our marriage invalidated, which is an interesting thing to go through marriage prep having already been married. But when we had to go through the marriage prep, so we went through there.
There's a whole comedy bit there.
Yeah, I know.
There absolutely is.
One of the couples that was up there was basically said, we used NFP and avoided children for 15 years. And it's like,
yeah,
that's what they were trying to sell it as birth control.
I think your personal views on that are 100% right. NFP can be used not as it's supposed to be used.
Right. It's the SSPX. If you go onto the SSPX site, which if you don't want it, whatever, but they have a thing that's much more. Because we read through all of it. When you are married and coming and reverting into the church, you read all of the things, and it's most of it's like there's not an official like. That's the church is seemingly deliberately vague on a lot of this stuff and what is and isn't permissible, and leaves a lot of it up to your personal thoughts. So all of that being said, when I went, we read the SSPX, and the SSPX version of it is like, if neither of you are going to die from having more kids, you should have more kids. Like, okay, that's one way to look at it. It's like,
that's fairly direct, but like
right.
Also lacking of lots of nuances.
Right, and there's nuance. There's charity. Like there's people who argue whether or not you need to have a grave reason or a serious reason, and what the difference is between serious and grave. And it's like all of it has to do.
That's so bad.
All of it has to do basically though is it is a decision between you and your spouse, and you should involve your priest to make sure if you are worried at all about whether or not what you're doing is potentially sinful. But it is like I can't tell somebody else that they are making the wrong choice. I can just say that that's not the choice that I would make. I mean, we've had our share of miscarriages, and we've had our share of sorrows with those miscarriages. But every single one of those lives, no matter how short it was a witness to God, and to the dignity of life. And I would not take any of them back for a second. I'd love to have them still here, but I would not I would not wish to not have to go through that, and for the sake of it's a very sensitive topic for me generally, and I have difficulties with the ways that some people do it. But I'm also not going. I also know I'm not a priest. I'm not here to judge. I cannot judge someone based on this. I know that there are struggles. I've had struggles. My wife has had struggles. Everyone has struggles with some of the church's teaching on these things. It doesn't make the teachings wrong because you're struggling with them. But it is still a struggle, and I can understand why people would want to do that. I just don't agree with the decisions.
Have you ever been? Oh, sorry.
No, I have one point to share on this, because I told modern papists about this. But and this is not really levity. It's a more, I guess, serious thing. But I always come at the church's teachings on this in the most gentle way, like humanly possible. Because my wife is not Catholic, but she does. She has agreed to not use any form of contraceptive with me. She's kind of come around to the church's teaching on it. And but just post when our first daughter was born, she had her gallbladder removed. She had postpartum preeclampsia. She was in the hospital multiple times. And there was a period of time where she was very scared to get pregnant again because, there had been so many complications. And we had to talk through those issues. But for a while, she was very angry at the Catholic Church for its teachings and so on. And we just had to work through those emotions, right? It was like a 60-day process of just kind of being like, okay, let's get back on the same page if we're on the same page. And if we're not, figure that out. And we got back on the same page. But I feel that sometimes because I've seen there was a woman who was trying to help my wife that said, I'll explain theology of the body to her and then that'll turn it all around. And it's like, she's afraid of dying. Like, you don't come up with a book and beat me with the rule, and she was like, one conversation and I'll have her turned around. And I said, her gallbladder got removed 2 days ago. And so, I think this teaching is very hard and very, I don't want to say it's situational, but how you approach it is very, with as much tact as humanly possible. Because I've seen Catholics come at it in a way where I've just got my head in my hands going, oh, just don't talk. just don't speak. Yeah. Not that what you're saying is wrong, but this isn't a theology debate,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've had that same thing with miscarriages and the number of people who want to say things that are like not. They're trying their best to say the right thing, but they say just completely the wrong thing and are very dismissive of the faith. Like you'll when you have a miscarriage, and this note out there to anyone: if you know someone who's had a miscarriage, the right response is not "you'll have another one someday," or "you can always have another."
No,
because that dismisses all of the pain and grief that person is feeling now. But every single time someone's like, we just had a miscarriage a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, you have 7 kids, and you'll get another kid. It's like, I want this kid. I want this child. I want this child to be okay. And it doesn't.
And you're
matter.
not guaranteed that future child they're talking about.
Right. And it's even if I were, it's like, it doesn't. None of that matters. In the moment, I'm not thinking about, oh, you know what? You're right. I could be okay later. It's, I'm sad now. And my wife just posted it. That at least you can get pregnant is another thing that people will say. And it's difficult. It's a difficult thing. And I know people are trying. Some people are speaking out of hurt because they can't. And they want what you have and they can't have it. And I understand that. And some people are speaking out of ignorance because they don't think about the dignity of the life. And some people are speaking out of malice.
And, like, part of that is because of, like, Twitter. Like, Twitter and Facebook, like, 2 things. So, NFP groups, if you don't find a good one, you will see exactly what Catholic comedy is talking about. Like the idea of really promoting this is Catholic contraception,
right?
And it's really bad. It's horrendous. It's not really what it was supposed to be. But like the second thing is, I think this knee-jerk reaction, like, what is it? You'll have like a grandma pass or something, and people will be like, oh, another angel just got his wings or her wings, and it's like, that's bad theology. Like, what are you saying? Like, that's not even like remotely appropriate. And it's like our ability to quickly respond to things that we have no business like saying in a like quote unquote profound manner. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, why that would happen. And like, don't get me wrong, like, you know, there are people who like love to do that or really want the support. Like, right, like if you have a Twitter following and you post that something bad happens and you just see all these like supportive tweets, like that's really great. But then like for some of them, they get used to doing a knee-jerk reaction or that they're an expert when someone is grieving. And it's like the worst thing to see, because you're just like, that's not going to land. Like from the outside, it's like that's not going to land well. And then if you're that person, it probably doesn't feel well at all.
There was someone who just went off on my wife when she posted on Twitter about her miscarriage, and like evil, mean, malicious stuff.
God.
Oh, yeah.
And she went private afterwards for a while. But it's like, what at what point in your life do you think, you know what, this person's grieving? How about I just, you know, take this whole bucket full of salt and just pour it right on that wound and then rub it in, and then I'm just going to kick them a bit while they're down, and maybe I'll light them on fire. Like, that seems like the way some people's thought process works is like, this person is sad. Let's make things worse.
Well, in an interesting way though, like too, like, you know, my wife just, you know, this year she got baptized and confirmed, and she got confirmed this Pentecost, and so like,
take a moment.
I just saw that on your Twitter page.
Oh, thanks.
That wasn't a joke. You like wrote something like "my pagan wife" or something.
No, that's not a joke. Yeah, she really was pagan.
And so you were married.
We're gonna have a thing. We're gonna actually have a thing. So
it's called marriage. You have a thing.
Yeah, Catholic Comedy and I already talked. I meant like she's gonna be on.
I know.
We're gonna actually talk about it. I'm not gonna have this haircut. So like that's another thing.
It is a very pagan haircut, though.
It's really bad. It really is. But like the whole thing of like promoting her from that, you'll get like her baptism. My gosh, there's so many Protestants that came out of the woodwork. There's even some like one pagan that actually came out and like responded to it in a very negative way. And it was just like really weird, because it was just like, why do you even care? Like, I understand I'm just throwing it out there, but it's like, why are you taking the time to respond? It's just
No, and I think one of the things too, in regards to miscarriages and being a person of faith, because a lot of people, I was reading in the comments, the pro-abortion arguments come out. They really do, and I remember my wife talking about it, and she said that's the hardest thing about.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at.
Oh no!
There you go.
We're just
thank
talking
you.
about.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome. Yeah, I wanted to give you guidance. Yeah.
That was why I laughed, not what you were saying.
No, but what she said is the hardest time being pro-life is when you miscarry a child, because you have to name it, and you have to bury it. And we had to do all of that. And so like whenever you, and it was the most beautiful moment where I just had so much respect for her. Because it'd be so easy to be like, oh, well, you know, it's a clump of cells or it's whatever, or it's not a big deal. And it's like, nah, man, you gotta like get in there. And really like just deal with that tragedy. But it's harder to be a believer than not, I think.
Yeah.
So like
this is definitely a heavy for me as well. So go ahead, Norbert.
So I just want to add, because you've both talked about miscarriages, and I'm not trying. Okay, this is not a like you talk about. You pulled two of your teeth. I'm going to now talk about a 4 teeth pull story. That is not what I'm doing here, but it's more just to like edify you and anybody else. My grandfather and grandmother had 12 miscarriages before they had my dad. So like that, and my dad was the oldest of 2. So, that just to help.
That does help, actually. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not really open about it, and it's a very touchy subject for me as well as Catholic comedy, and that's the reason why I haven't really put it out there, is because exactly for that reason. When you do, you just get attacked about everything. Me and my wife have had 2, and we haven't had any children, so that actually did help. So
Yeah.
It's every child is a child from the moment of conception, and no matter how long that child lives, that child is a child. And that's what I mean. Our society doesn't like it. Our society likes to sweep those things under the rug.
Yeah.
And like, we need to, like, women folk, if you're listening right now, and if you have had miscarriages, you'll be surprised at how many people around you, if you start talking about it, how many people are going to talk to you and to let you know that they've had that same experience. Father Paul is about to leave because his internet shuts down at 11 o'clock.
I might
Eastern.
be able to get on my iPad. I might. I have so many stories to talk about what we're talking about. I don't know what's going to happen. This is very, and I'm sorry. So if I get
Late night,
You know, that's
okay.
going to be the new Master's Tale
no, it
race.
didn't
that I
happen.
come up
It
with
didn't
is
happen.
woman
Maybe
vote.
it's
Women's
We'll be talking about a whole nother episode on this.
yeah. We gotta pray, man. We gotta pray. I mean, I can't believe
Let's
dude.
do a prayer.
I just tried to talk somebody into not. I mean, I don't want to get into details at all, but we need to seriously pray for people when it comes to this life stuff. Like it's insane. I just tried to lovingly with every. I tried to talk someone out of having an abortion.
Oh my God.
And I'm not even going to say any details at all, but let's just say that I was then told by family members that if this person decides to hurt themselves or kill themselves because they keep the baby, then it's on me.
Oh
and so it's just that's all I could say without saying even the slightest detail. And obviously these people are just very they're lost, they're scared. It's you know, we're speaking life, not death. We're speaking death. And it's I don't know, man. I didn't get kicked off. Maybe it's just my phone that stops at 11.
Let's take a moment and Father, if you wouldn't mind leading us in a prayer, just to, I don't know whatever prayer you think is most appropriate at this point, but just with everything, just to make sure that we get a prayer in for these people.
Yeah. All right, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Lord God, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening on Late Night Heaviness. Just kidding. Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity for laughter and for this show and for every single person in here. Please bless us, guide us, send your Holy Spirit upon us, give us clarity and courage, understanding, and then the courage to act upon it. We pray for everyone who is suffering the loss of a child, regardless of what stage of development that human child was. We pray for healing. We pray for all mothers, all fathers. We pray for every single miscarried, aborted, born, every single human being. We pray for their dignity. We pray that this culture of death may become a culture of life. And help us, God, as we are maybe persecuted or hated, as you told your followers that they will be persecuted and hated because of you. But let us still do all things in your truth and in your love, carrying our cross, united to yours. We ask all this in the name of Jesus Christ, our King, and we ask for the powerful intercession of the most blessed Virgin Mary as we pray, Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning in this, oh my gosh, I messed it up.
Mourning and weeping in this valley of tears.
Valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us. Help me, guys.
And after this, our
Our exile.
show unto us
Unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Jesus.
O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary.
Mary. Pray for us, O
for
Holy
us,
Mother,
Saint of
Mother
God, that
God,
we may
that we
become worthy
of the
of the
promises
promises
of
of
Christ.
Christ. May Almighty God bless all of you. May you know his unbelievable love, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
All right, now for the traditionalists, I need you to do that same prayer again, but in Latin. So
all right.
If you made
he
the sign
already
of
did
the
it at
cross without
Orientum.
the three
Come on,
fingers.
don't do it at Orientum.
Yeah, you're gonna have to turn around and say it in Latin so that so you see the back of your head.
No, that's the boomer description, man. Because it's towards God, right?
I just had to do my comedy act for the Latin Mass people, and they wanted me to do it backwards. So
They want
That's good. That's good. Bring it back to the levity. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, now tune in next time when we talk about the Paladin thoughts on NFP.
what's the I was the Paladin is the mascot for where I went to high school, and I was the Paladin.
Wow.
and you,
Oh,
I think
nice.
you are currently a paladin in certain respects.
Guys, I'm sorry for crashing. Catholic Comedy did
No
invite
worries.
me. Catholic Fantasy Guy. If this
It's been great. It's always great.
No, this is good conversation. This is good to have.
This is great. Okay, so here's my coming in here and bringing us back to message, which is comedy and humor are not just jokes. Humor is about a proper understanding and a right understanding of what is and isn't serious. Having a good sense of humor is having an understanding of life and of reality. And humor can also humor carries a lot of heart to it. When you have something like a humorous story or a humorous movie or anything, there is that heaviness that's there too. And it doesn't matter how far down and how dark the darkest moments are, because Christ went through death and came back with light and glory and can bring us with him. In the same way, it does not matter how dark conversations go. A good sense of humor always then can turn and focus on the glory of God. Just as we did here, we got to some very serious conversations, but they didn't lack humor because they were in proper humor, which is understanding the seriousness and the love. And we showcased our love, each of us, or those of us who have lost children, showcase our love for those children, which is proper humor. Okay? And we also showcase our hope for tomorrow and for the souls of those children, that God takes care of those children. And so that's the levity, that's the joy, that's the hope. Like, we know God loves us, and we know God will take care of us, and we know he will take care of our children, and we appreciate all the gifts he's given us. Every child we have had, even if our time with them was brief, is loved and appreciated. And so that's me plucking the joy out of a very serious conversation, but there is joy there. And it's important because what's going to happen here is we have nearly 300 people. I'm rounding up by a lot, but still nearly 300 people watching this right now. And we don't know how many people will watch later on, but we have those people who are watching. Someone who is watching right now, I guarantee you, has gone through this same pain that we're going right now and thinks they are alone. And they should know they are not alone. And we, all of us who have gone through this, who have had miscarriages, all of us know the pain and are still able to see the joy of God in our lives. So it's not despair, because despair is what will get you. Grief is real. Have it. Experience grief. Turn that grief into joy, love, and understanding. But do not give in to despair, because that's Satan's trick. Mm-hmm. That's his big trick. His whole shtick. Every other sin that you can think of, the whole thing is designed to push you into despair, because every pleasure that you can give yourself, the greed, the lust, all of it, it has that empty feeling that Satan tries to push you into despair. But if you can rise above it and get out of it and focus in on the joy and the love of Christ, you will survive. And if you are suffering right now because of a loss, if you are suffering right now because you're afraid of a loss, know that there are people here who you can talk to. My DMs on the Twitters are open. Anyone can shoot me a message if you want to talk about anything, this or anything else along those lines, or if you want to talk about jokes or things like that. I'm here for you. So long as you aren't Catholic song guy. Sorry, you just it's too much. Catholic song guy, I know we asked you for a song. Do you have another song in you? Just a fun little ditty, maybe the one you did last week, but with a guitar this time?
Oh, yeah, let me think. I can hang on a minute.
Absolutely. Kitty cat.
I mean,
this is just the distraction for the show that we're about to get.
Is he a cat?
Give me a second. I may have to get the words up here.
So I will say that dogs are how God shows us that there exists love, love and understanding in this world. A love that has no strings attached. Cats are how God shows us that demons are real.
I would have a dog, by the way, if
my
house was bigger.
No, I've got good cats. They're dumb, but they're good.
They're dumb.
See, this is
I got some good cats too.
Look, you guys have the cat hair of Satan all over your house. That
No.
if I walk into any of your houses, I will die.
The only thing Satan made was the Canada goose.
The Canada goose.
Okay.
Geese are fine, man. I got geese.
Okay.
Geese are actually most of my geese died this week. That's another good thing. Catholic song guy, why don't you play us out?
Yeah.
All right. We talked about trad people, but people who aren't too far off the right side of the boat, right? So this is about that guy. Got a good Catholic buddy who likes to roll old school. He'd go TLM if he had one around, but his parish ain't always cool. Ain't no Senevic contest. He believes the Pope's in Rome. He just wishes for more of that old-time tradition, cause he's trad to the bone. Trad. Trad. He's trad to the bone. His wife likes to veil. His daughters do too. He and his boys wear jackets and ties and the bright shine on their shoes. Ain't trying to show off or shame us. That's just how they dress for God's home. My buddy's a fine traddy daddy, cause he's trad to the bone. Trad. Trad. He's trad to the bone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Catholic Fantasy Guy, for showing up. Thank you, Father Paul, for popping in. And I did invite him, so he didn't just sneak into this. Catholic Fantasy Guy, we will have you back for when we're going to do our actual version of your Master's Tale. So let me know when you've got everything set up for that. We'll get that all ready. For the rest of you guys, I'm just so grateful to have you guys around here. And this isn't an AI speech. This is just me. But I love you guys, and I appreciate everything that you guys bring to the table. Except, of course, for Catholic Song. No, of course, Catholic Song Guy. You're the only guy with a guitar here. I appreciate you.
Do you have like a page or something?
Yes, we put it on. You put it on earlier. I put it in the chat. And when Steve-O puts this live, I think you can add that in, right?
You might have put it in the private chat.
I did. I put it in our private chat. Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I can repost that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to copy this. I'll put it into the regular chat as the regular chat as well. It. But when it comes to the actual like this post and go live, you can add that and check out the links below for those. So go there to get a copy of his Master Tale book. He's a good Catholic man who happens to have a non-Catholic wife. We won't hold that against him, just like we didn't hold it against modern Papists until recently.
So
Not
thank
to
you
his
all.
face, anyway.
No,
Is
never
your
to
name
his face.
John? Are you John?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I found
He's
it.
John.
He
Oh,
is
so you're
John.
not a regular on the show? You were a guest?
No, he's the
Yes,
guest.
he's
He's
the
the
guest.
special guest.
Oh,
Who you derailed the
special
whole
guest.
topic.
Sometimes worse.
The whole time. The
You're
whole
fine.
topic
No,
was
it's
supposed to be
okay.
helping him sell his book, and then we ended up talking about NFP. So thank you,
It happened.
Father Paul, for derailing us. So no, we're gonna do a whole show where we're gonna play his game. Don't worry, he's fine.
Yeah.
And
Right.
he's
Yeah,
not
Well,
paying,
a lot of fun.
if he was paying us for this, I'd feel bad. But since he's not, I don't. So
I'm broke.
That's okay. I am too.
You just gotta, you just gotta be like Johnny Carson, keep you on track. It's your show.
I am bad at that. I'm bad at staying on track myself. So
Yeah.
I can't be expected to help anyone else. But I'm trying to call the whole thing off here, and I'm still
Okay.
getting distracted.
I know, but
All
like this is the fun.
As soon as you told me to hit the outro, I'm hitting the outro, brother.
All right. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you, everyone in the live stream, for being here. Thank you for the people who are in our studio audience. And and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. See you guys then.
All right.
Peace
All right.
out. Play the outro.
Good night, everybody.